I never thought a simple coffee meetup with friends could unravel everything so quickly. The air was supposed to be light, filled with small talk and laughter, but as soon as I stepped into that cozy corner cafe, I felt the weight of unspoken words hanging thick between us. It started normally enough, smiles, hugs, the usual catching up after weeks apart. But beneath those friendly gestures, I sensed something brewing, an undercurrent that made my stomach twist with unease. Tom was already seated when I arrived, nervously tapping his fingers on the wooden table. Across from him was Lisa, her gaze flickering between Tom and me like a flame wavering in the breeze. I greeted them both, trying to mask the jittery feeling inside. What none of us realized was how tightly intertwined our feelings had become, like threads in a tapestry fraying at the edges. The conversation started casually, reminiscing about old times and sharing stories from our separate lives. Yet, every sentence carried a hidden meaning, every glance a question left unanswered. At one point, Lisa's voice cracked slightly as she mentioned a recent event Tom had attended without me. I caught the subtle sting in her words, the jealousy barely concealed beneath her polite tone. Tom tried to steer the topic elsewhere, but the damage was done. The tension was palpable now, like a fragile glass ready to shatter with the slightest pressure. I found myself watching their interactions closely, how Lisa's eyes searched Tom's face, how he avoided hers, and how I felt like an outsider caught in the middle of a silent tug of war. The cafe's warm lighting did little to soften the chill spreading through the room. I realized that this meeting was no longer just about friendship, it was a battlefield of hearts. Trying to break the silence, I asked Tom about his recent work projects. His response was curt, distracted. I could tell his mind was elsewhere, tangled in the emotional mess unfolding right before us. Lisa suddenly shifted in her seat, her voice dropping to a whisper as she accused Tom of being distant, not just physically, but emotionally, especially towards me. Tom's eyes flashed with frustration, his voice rising slightly as he defended himself. The calm facade we had maintained was crumbling fast. I felt my heart pounding in my chest, emotions swirling, anger, hurt, confusion, all clashing inside me like a storm at sea. The other patrons seemed to fade into the background as our voices grew louder, the cafe turning into a stage for our unraveling drama. Suddenly, Lisa burst out, confessing feelings she had harbored for Tom for months. The confession hit me like a blow, leaving me gasping for air. Tom looked stunned, caught off guard by the sudden revelation. His eyes met mine, searching for answers I didn't have. I realized then that I was not just a friend, but a player in a complicated love triangle none of us had anticipated. The silence that followed was deafening, thick with disbelief and pain. I struggled to find words that wouldn't make things worse. Lisa's voice trembled as she admitted she had hoped for more from Tom, but never expected this confrontation to happen in public. Tom finally spoke, his voice low and conflicted, admitting he cared deeply for both of us, but was scared of hurting either one. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, overwhelmed by the intensity of emotions swirling around the small table. The waiter approached cautiously, sensing the tension but unsure how to intervene in this personal storm. We all took a moment to breathe, the silence stretching uncomfortably between us like a chasm. I looked at Tom and Lisa, realizing that the dynamics of our friendship had shifted irrevocably in just a few moments. Trying to regain composure, I suggested we step outside for some fresh air, hoping the change of scenery might calm our frayed nerves. Outside, the cool evening breeze brushed against my skin, contrasting sharply with the heat of the confrontation inside. Lisa's eyes were red-rimmed, but her expression was resolute, as if she had made a decision in that moment. Tom and I stood awkwardly, caught between the past we shared and the uncertain future now laid bare. The city lights flickered around us, indifferent to the emotional chaos unfolding beneath their glow. I couldn't help but wonder how we had all arrived at this point, three friends tangled in a web of love, loyalty, and betrayal. Lisa finally broke the silence, saying she needed time to think, to process everything that had come to light. Tom nodded, his usual confident demeanor replaced by vulnerability and doubt. I felt a pang of sadness mixed with relief. At least the truth was out, even if it hurt like hell. We agreed to meet again soon, though I knew things wouldn't be the same between us anymore. Walking home that night, I replayed every moment, every word, trying to make sense of the tangled emotions. The love triangle we found ourselves in was raw and messy, and there were no easy answers or clear winners. I realized that sometimes love isn't about neat resolutions, but about navigating the chaos and pain it brings. And in that moment, all I could do was brace myself for whatever came next, knowing that our story was far from over. The next few days were a blur of texts, missed calls, and silent moments filled with uncertainty. Each message from Lisa or Tom carried an undercurrent of tension, a careful dance around the truth we all feared to confront. I found myself questioning my own feelings, trying to separate love from loyalty, desire from friendship. It was exhausting and painful, the emotional toll heavier than I had anticipated. At work, I struggled to focus, my mind constantly drifting back to that night and the fragile state of our relationships. Friends noticed my distraction but didn't press. Some things are too complicated to explain easily. One evening, I met Lisa unexpectedly at a bookstore. The awkwardness was immediate but also strangely comforting. We exchanged hesitant smiles, the weight of unspoken words lingering between us. She confessed she was scared of losing both of us, caught between hope and heartbreak. I shared my own fears, the confusion and pain I felt, acknowledging that none of us had all the answers. It was a small moment of connection amid the chaos, a fragile thread of understanding. But even as we talked, I knew the road ahead would be anything but simple. Meanwhile, Tom's silence grew heavier, his usual warmth replaced by distance that cut deeper than any argument. When we finally spoke, his voice was quiet, tinged with regret and longing. He admitted he needed time to figure out what he truly wanted, torn between two hearts and one friendship. The revelation didn't bring relief, only a deeper sense of uncertainty. I realized that love triangles aren't just about romantic choices. They're about identity, trust, and the limits of the heart. Every decision felt like a risk, every step forward uncertain and fraught with potential pain. As days turned into weeks, the intensity of our emotions didn't fade, but evolved, shifting in ways none of us could predict. We all tried to act normal in public, but behind closed doors, the emotional storm raged on. I caught myself replaying old memories, searching for clues that might explain how we ended up here. Was it fate, coincidence, or something deeper that bound us so tightly and painfully? One night, unable to sleep, I found myself scrolling through old photos, smiles frozen in time, moments before everything changed. The nostalgia was bittersweet, a reminder of what we had and what might never be again. I knew that whatever happened next, our lives were forever intertwined by this complicated love triangle. And as the dawn broke, I wondered if love was worth the chaos it brought, or if some stories were better left untold. The meeting that went wrong was only the beginning, a catalyst for a journey none of us were prepared to take. But in the midst of pain and confusion, I held onto a fragile hope that honesty, however painful, might eventually lead us somewhere better. For now, all I could do was wait, watch, and brace myself for whatever came next in this tangled web of love. Each day brought new challenges, new emotions to confront, and a deeper understanding of the complexity of human hearts. Sometimes, the hardest part isn't choosing who to love, but learning how to love without losing yourself. And so, with uncertainty as my only certainty, I stepped forward, ready to face whatever storms lay ahead. Because in love triangles, there are no easy answers, only the messy, beautiful struggle to find our own truth.